The planet Zyphora glimmered under the light of three suns. Its towers were tall and elegant, gleaming with energy crystals that pulsed softly, giving the city a heartbeat of its own. In the grand palace at the center of the capital, Queen Lysera sat on her throne, her eyes observing the crowd with quiet precision. The royal hall was alive with nobles from across the galaxy, their shimmering robes and exotic shapes making the room feel like a living mosaic. At the center of it all, standing awkwardly, was Ethan. He was human, tall and lean, with dark hair that fell slightly over his forehead. His blue eyes scanned the crowd nervously. He was far from home, far from the familiar streets of Earth, and entirely surrounded by creatures that made him feel small. Some had 6 arms, others had translucent skin that shimmered with internal light. He could feel their curious gazes on him, and the weight of their judgment pressed on his shoulders. Ethan had married Lysera only a few weeks ago. The marriage had been arranged between Earth's representatives and Zyphora's ruling council, intended to strengthen political ties and ensure mutual security. For Lysera, the human seemed ordinary, too ordinary. He had no power, no skills that she could see, and certainly no experience in the sophisticated politics of her world. Many in the court whispered among themselves, questioning how a simple human could befit their queen. But Ethan had a calmness to him. Despite his nervousness, he stood straight and nodded politely to those who greeted him. He listened carefully, trying to understand the customs of Zyphora. Every movement mattered here. Every gesture had meaning. He tripped once over a flowing gown and felt heat rise to his cheeks. Lysera watched, suppressing a small sigh. Humans were so fragile, she thought. How could one possibly keep up with the challenges of her world? The first test of his patience came that afternoon. A delegation from the nearby colony of Vorin arrived to report disturbances near their settlement. Rebel factions had started attacking supply convoys and tensions were rising. The aliens spoke in rapid, clicking tones which Ethan could barely follow. Lysera noticed his confusion and translated softly, "They want our help to secure the colony, but they doubt their own forces can hold it alone." Ethan nodded slowly. "Then we should go there," he said, his voice steady but quiet. "If they need help, we should send it immediately." Waiting could make things worse. Lysera blinked. She had expected him to suggest diplomacy, or to stay in the safety of the palace. Instead, he suggested immediate action. It was reckless, she thought, and yet there was a hint of bravery in his voice. "The colony is dangerous," she warned. "Even experienced officers risk their lives there. You are not trained in our ways." Ethan met her gaze without fear. "I may not be trained in alien tactics, but I can learn. And I can help. I will not stand idle while others are in danger." The room fell silent. Many nobles whispered, amused at his boldness. Lysera, however, was intrigued. She had not seen courage in someone so ordinary. She allowed him to join the delegation, more out of curiosity than expectation. The journey to Vorin was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. The transport ship hovered over the colony, its sleek hull reflecting the suns above. Below, the planet's surface was rugged and scarred, a mix of rocky terrain and alien forests that glowed faintly at night. Ethan looked down, absorbing every detail. He felt a strange thrill, a mix of fear and excitement. Upon landing, the situation became clear. The colony's defenses were thin, and the aliens stationed there moved with mechanical precision, following routines that Ethan quickly noticed could be exploited. Supply lines were poorly organized, and patrols rarely communicated effectively. He observed quietly, taking mental notes while the alien commanders debated strategies. Finally, he spoke. "If you place the patrols differently, they can cover twice as much ground without tiring. And if you use these natural ridges," he pointed to the terrain, "you can hide your supplies from the rebels. They will waste energy looking where nothing exists." The lead officer, a tall 4-armed alien named Rykal, frowned. "You are a human. You know nothing of war tactics here." "This is our domain," Ethan smiled faintly. "I know human tactics. They may seem simple, but they are effective. Sometimes thinking differently is more important than thinking like everyone else." Lysera watched from the edge of the council chamber set up in the colony. His voice carried confidence, and for the first time, she noticed the spark she had missed during their courtship. Perhaps humans were not as weak as she thought. Perhaps this human, her human, was more capable than appearances suggested. The rebels struck that evening. Ethan had barely returned to his quarters when alarms blared across the colony. Alien sirens screamed, a mix of deep booms and high-pitched chimes. Ethan grabbed a tactical interface and ran toward the command center. Soldiers were moving, but confusion was clear on their faces. Ethan didn't hesitate. He guided patrols through the terrain he had studied, coordinating their positions with precise timing. When rebels appeared, he suggested ambush points based on their predictable patterns. Alien soldiers hesitated at first, but soon followed his guidance. The first wave of attackers fell back. Ethan moved among the soldiers, pointing, directing, encouraging. He even helped a small team carry civilians to safety, demonstrating calm and clear thinking under pressure. Lysera observed silently, her heart pounding. She had known humans were different, but she had never realized how much potential they held. By dawn, the battle was over. The colony had suffered minimal damage and the rebels had retreated. The alien commanders were stunned. A human, not trained, not experienced in alien warfare, had guided them to victory. Lysera approached Ethan as he stepped out into the morning light. Tusk clung to his clothes, but his expression was steady, almost serene. "You," she began, struggling to find words. "I did not expect this." Ethan looked at her and shrugged. "I did what anyone should do. Help where help is needed. Protect where protection is required." Lysera studied him. She realized that strength was not always visible in muscles or weapons. Sometimes it was quiet, intelligent, and steady under pressure. This human had shown courage and wisdom she had never seen before in anyone at her court. The nobles who had doubted Ethan's worth now looked at him with a mixture of awe and suspicion. Whispers spread across the colony. Humans, could they really be that capable? Lysera remained silent for a moment, then said, "You may have more strength than I thought. But strength alone does not make a ruler or a hero. You must show more, and soon." Ethan nodded, understanding her challenge. He felt a strange warmth in her words, a combination of admiration and expectation. He had not come here to impress a queen, yet somehow he had. That night, as the sun set over Zyphora, painting the sky in streaks of gold and violet, Ethan walked along the colony's perimeter. He looked up at the stars, thinking of Earth, of his home, and of the strange journey that had brought him here. He knew challenges lay ahead, greater than a simple rebel attack. But for the first time, he felt a quiet confidence. Lysera watched from her balcony above. The human she had married seemed ordinary in many ways, yet she could sense a deeper fire within him. She had seen a glimpse of his true strength, and it unsettled her. How had she underestimated him so completely? Somewhere in the galaxy, the balance of power was shifting, and a human, quiet, clever, and brave, was at its center. As night fell, the colony slept, unaware that their new protector, this unusual human, was only beginning to show what he was truly capable of. And Queen Lysera, sitting alone in her chamber, realized that her life and her planet was about to change forever. The colony of Vorin settled into uneasy calm after the rebel attack. Repairs were underway and soldiers patrolled the perimeter more carefully. Yet tension lingered in the air like a storm waiting to strike. Queen Lysera had returned to her palace, but her thoughts remained with Ethan. The human had surprised her. He had no formal training in alien warfare, no special powers that she could see, yet he had guided the colony to safety with intelligence, courage, and clarity. Ethan, meanwhile, was restless. Sitting in a small room assigned to him in the colony, he studied maps of the surrounding territories. Every ridge, every valley, every forested area was marked. He traced paths with his finger, imagining possible attack routes and defenses. To the alien commanders, he seemed obsessive, but Ethan saw patterns they had missed. He understood that a clever mind and careful observation could turn the tide in ways brute strength could not. "Ethan," said one of the lead officers, Rykal, approaching him with forearms crossed, "you are unusual. Most humans would sit quietly, afraid. Yet you analyze, you direct, you intervene. Why do you risk yourself?" Ethan looked up. "Because someone has to," he said simply. "Fear helps no one. If I do nothing, others will suffer. If I act, maybe I can help." Rykal stared at him, then nodded slowly. "Perhaps humans are different from what we assumed. But our methods are not yours. You may succeed once, but the next battle may be far worse." Ethan did not argue. He only said, "Then we prepare better." The next day, Lysera visited the colony personally. She wanted to see Ethan again, to understand the strange confidence he carried. She arrived in a quiet hovercraft, her elegant robes flowing behind her. As she stepped out, soldiers bowed automatically. She ignored them, her gaze fixed on Ethan, who was walking along the colony's edge, studying a set of patrol routes. "You're at it again," she said, her tone almost teasing. "Planning, observing, thinking." Ethan looked at her and smiled faintly. "I cannot stop thinking." "If I do, we may miss something important." Lysera tilted her head. "You have surprised me, human. You led this colony through an attack and kept most people safe. I did not think a human could do that," Ethan shrugged. "I did what anyone should do. I just think differently. Sometimes that is enough." Lysera studied him. His calm voice, steady hands, and careful thoughts impressed her. She had married him as a political alliance, but she could not ignore that this human was more than he appeared. As they spoke, a sudden alarm rang. The rebels had returned. A small strike team had infiltrated the outer regions of the colony. They were not large in number, but their goal seemed clear: create panic and gather information. Ethan reacted instantly. He ran to the command center, his mind calculating every possibility. Lysera followed, intrigued by his decisiveness. Alien soldiers were already preparing to defend, but Ethan's presence changed the atmosphere. They listened more closely, followed his directions faster. "Divide the outer patrols," he instructed. "Half will remain in the valleys. The others will take positions along the ridges. Rebels will expect strength in the center, not flanking maneuvers. Use their assumptions against them." Rykal hesitated, but then obeyed. The soldiers moved exactly as Ethan suggested. Within moments, the rebels were caught off guard. Small groups that tried to enter the colony were intercepted, while others ran into traps laid along the ridges. Lysera observed from the command center balcony. She could see Ethan moving among the soldiers, pointing, guiding, and explaining in simple gestures. His presence was not commanding in the usual alien way. It was quiet, precise, and effective. Soldiers began to follow his lead without hesitation. When a group of rebels attempted to reach the supply depot, Ethan ran ahead, using the terrain to hide his movements. He reached a narrow passage where the rebels had not expected resistance. Using a combination of simple tools and makeshift barricades, he created obstacles that forced the attackers to slow down and become vulnerable. From her vantage point, Lysera saw him working, unafraid. He was not the strongest physically, but his mind was fast, clever, and adaptive. Every action he took changed the battlefield. The human she had married was turning the fight in their favor again. By the time the suns rose, the skirmish was over. The rebels retreated, leaving behind a few wounded. The colony had minimal damage, and once more human ingenuity had made a difference. Alien commanders were stunned. "You did it again?" Rykal said, panting. "You humans, you are unpredictable." Ethan only nodded. Sometimes being different is enough to succeed. Lysera approached him as the alien soldiers tended to their duties. She looked at him, her expression a mix of awe and curiosity. "Ethan, this is remarkable. I have seen many warriors, many strategists, but none like you. You think in ways I cannot predict. You are not what I expected." Ethan smiled faintly. "Perhaps that is the point. Expecting one thing blinds you to another. I do not act to impress. I act to help." Lysera's gaze softened. She realized that strength was not always visible in physical form. Intelligence, courage, and the ability to adapt could be far more powerful. The human she had married, whom she had dismissed as ordinary, was quietly extraordinary. Over the following days, Ethan worked tirelessly. He trained with alien soldiers, showing them new ways to patrol, communicate, and defend. He studied alien technology not to master it fully, but to understand its potential. His unorthodox ideas slowly gained respect. Alien soldiers began to follow his guidance without question. Even some of the nobles who had doubted him started to take notice, though they hid it behind polite expressions. Lysera observed silently, her admiration growing. She saw how he inspired the troops, how he solved problems quickly, and how he remained calm under pressure. She realized that her husband's true strength was more than just courage. It was his mind, his heart, and his ability to adapt to any challenge. One evening, she found him standing alone at the edge of the colony, gazing at the twin moons rising above the horizon. The wind carried a soft hum from the alien forests, a melody that seemed to calm everything. "You never stop thinking, do you?" Lysera asked, approaching him quietly. Ethan shook his head. "No. There is always something to observe, to understand, to improve. I cannot waste time being idle when others may need help." Lysera studied him. You have changed how I see humans. I did not believe you could do so much. And yet here you are, teaching us, guiding us, saving lives. You are not just strong, you are remarkable. Ethan looked at her, meeting her gaze steadily. I only do what I believe is right. That is all anyone can do. She smiled faintly, a mix of pride and something deeper. The human she had married had revealed a side she had never expected. A quiet strength that was far more potent than she had imagined. The colony settled into a cautious peace, but Ethan knew that this was only the beginning. The rebels were small, but they were part of a larger threat. Intelligence reports hinted at alliances with unknown factions, planning something bigger, something more dangerous. Ethan returned to the command center, reviewing the maps and reports. He began planning defensive measures, training protocols and strategies that combined alien technology with human tactics. Each decision he made strengthened the colony's defenses and the soldiers' confidence. Lysera watched him from the balcony, a sense of amazement settling over her. The human she had married was no longer just her husband. He was a symbol of hope, courage, and unexpected power. She could see now why humans were underestimated across the galaxy. Their strength was not always visible, but it was undeniable when revealed. As night fell on Vorin, Ethan stood again at the colony's edge, looking toward the stars. Somewhere beyond those distant points of light, greater challenges awaited, but he felt ready. He had learned quickly, adapted, and gained the trust of those around him. And slowly, he was beginning to show that humans, though simple in appearance, could stand among the greatest in the galaxy. Lysera turned away from the balcony, her mind racing. The human she had married was more than she had imagined, and soon she knew he would reveal even more of his true strength. The stars shimmered above, silent witnesses to the unfolding story. A human, quiet and unassuming, was stepping fully into his place among the stars, and the galaxy would never see him the same way again. The suns of Vorin had just begun their rise, painting the sky in streaks of gold and violet, when alarms blared across the colony. The rebels were back. This time their numbers were larger and their intent clear. They were coming to destroy, not just harass. Ethan was already awake, scanning reports from the previous skirmishes. His mind worked like a machine, analyzing positions, supply lines, and terrain. Every ridge, every valley, every hidden path had been mapped. He moved quickly to the command center where Lysera and the alien generals were already assembling. They've doubled in size, one commander said, his voice tense. We cannot hold them alone. Ethan shook his head. We don't have to fight them the way they expect. We will use the terrain, their assumptions, and our planning to our advantage. They may be stronger, but they are predictable. Lysera watched him silently. She had followed his actions during the minor attacks and realized that his strength lay not in brute force, but in his intelligence and courage. But now, facing a full-scale assault, she wondered if his methods would be enough. Humans are unpredictable, Rykal said, his tone almost grudgingly respectful. I hope your confidence is not misplaced. Ethan smiled faintly. It is not confidence. It is preparation. The first wave of rebels arrived just as the suns cleared the horizon. Dust rose into the air and the soldiers braced themselves. Ethan moved among them, issuing clear instructions. Position along the ridges, use the natural cover, and allow no gaps. He instructed scouts to feint attacks, drawing the rebels into traps. The aliens hesitated at first, unsure of the humans' unorthodox methods. But as the plan unfolded, the results became clear. The rebels, expecting a direct confrontation, were funneled into narrow passes and hidden ambush points. Explosions echoed across the valleys as the alien forces, guided by Ethan, struck with precision. Lysera stood on a cliff above the battlefield, her eyes following her husband. She had never imagined a human could command a war in this way. Ethan moved with calm determination, never raising his voice, never showing fear. His presence alone seemed to inspire the soldiers. When a group of rebels broke through the outer defenses and approached the civilian quarters, Ethan ran ahead. He directed the defenders, using barricades and terrain to slow the attackers. He personally guided civilians to safe shelters, moving quickly and efficiently, his mind calculating every possible outcome. One alien officer whispered to Lysera, "He is remarkable. I have never seen such leadership in one so ordinary." Lysera did not respond. She could see it herself. The human she had married, whom she had thought weak and fragile, was displaying courage and brilliance that rivaled the greatest generals of Zephora. The battle raged for hours. Rebels tried to flank, to surprise, to overwhelm, but Ethan's planning countered every attempt. He anticipated their moves, adapting strategies on the fly. When one group tried to use a forest to hide their approach, he directed a squad to cut off their escape routes. When another group tried to storm the supply depot, he had already set traps and redirected them. Lysera could feel her heart pounding as she watched him. He was not just surviving, he was controlling the chaos. And with every action, her respect and admiration grew. This human, so quiet and unassuming in court, had revealed a depth of strength she had never expected. By midday, the tide had turned. The rebels, frustrated and exhausted, began to retreat. Many were captured, others fled into the wilderness. The colony had suffered minimal casualties, thanks largely to Ethan's strategies and the courage he had inspired in the alien soldiers. Ethan stood on a ridge overlooking the battlefield, breathing heavily, but composed. The sun reflected off his hair, casting a glow around him. Lysera approached carefully, her mind racing. She began, struggling to find words. I did not expect this. You have led, fought, and saved lives. You are extraordinary. Ethan looked at her, his expression calm. I did what I had to do. Anyone would do the same if they were in this position. Lysera shook her head. No, not anyone. You think, act, and lead in ways we could not have imagined. You are not just strong. You are remarkable. The soldiers began to gather around, some bowing in respect, others simply standing in quiet acknowledgement. Whispers spread quickly. The human has proven himself. The one they thought weak, the one they dismissed, has turned the battle. Even Raikal, who had doubted him earlier, stepped forward. I owe you my respect, human. You have shown strength, courage, and intelligence beyond any expectation. I will not forget this. Ethan nodded to him, then looked toward the horizon. This is only one battle. The threat is larger than a single attack. We must prepare for what comes next. Lysera felt a mixture of pride and apprehension. She had thought humans were fragile, limited, and ordinary. She had married one without expecting much. And now she realized she had underestimated him completely. This human, her husband, had revealed a power and brilliance that few could match. That evening, the colony celebrated its victory quietly. Soldiers shared meals, repaired equipment, and tended to the wounded. Ethan moved among them, helping wherever he could, offering advice and ensuring everyone was safe. His presence was calm, steady, and commanding without being domineering. Lysera observed him again. She saw the way he inspired loyalty, how he thought beyond the immediate moment, how he remained composed in chaos. Her admiration deepened, mixed with a growing sense of something she had not expected. Trust. She could rely on him, not because he was strong physically, but because his mind and courage were unshakable. As night fell, the twin moons rose above the colony, casting a silver light across the fields and forests. Ethan walked to the edge of the settlement, gazing at the distant stars. He thought of Earth, of his home, and of the strange journey that had brought him to this alien world. Challenges lay ahead, larger, more dangerous, but he felt ready. Lysera joined him silently. You have changed everything, she said softly. Not just here, but how I see humans, how I see strength, and how I see you. Ethan turned to her, a small smile on his face. I have only done what I believe is right. That is all anyone can do. She studied him, feeling the weight of her own assumptions melting away. You have shown me that strength is not only in power or skill. Sometimes it is in courage, intelligence, and the ability to inspire. You're all of these. Ethan looked up at the moons, thinking of the battles yet to come. Then we prepare. And when the next challenge arrives, we face it together. Lysera nodded. She realized that the human she had married was no longer just a husband in name. He was a protector, a strategist, and a hero in the making. The alien nobles, the soldiers, the people of the colony, all had seen his courage and brilliance. And she knew that this was only the beginning. The stars shimmered above, silent witnesses to the unfolding story. A human, quiet and unassuming, had revealed his true strength. The galaxy was beginning to notice, and Queen Lysera, who had once underestimated him, now understood that her human husband was capable of extraordinary things, things that would change their world forever. The victory at Voron brought only a brief sense of relief. Ethan knew that the rebel attacks were just the beginning. Reports from scouts and intelligence agents hinted at a larger, more organized force behind the small rebellions. A galactic syndicate, shadowy and powerful, was quietly building alliances, preparing for a strike that could threaten not only the colony but the entire planet of Zyphera. Ethan pored over maps in the colony's command center, his mind already working through potential strategies. He traced every supply route, every patrol path, and every known hiding spot for hostile forces. Alien commanders watched him, some skeptical, others clearly impressed. He suggested rearrangements of patrols, early warning systems, and emergency protocols. Each idea combined human logic with alien technology in ways no one had considered before. Lysera arrived at the command center, her flowing robes barely brushing the floor. She had been observing from the palace, but curiosity and concern drew her here. She found Ethan standing over a holographic map, marking points with deliberate care. "You are always thinking," she said softly, approaching him. Ethan looked up and smiled faintly. "I cannot stop. If we fail to anticipate the threat, many will suffer. We must be ready." Lysera studied him closely. His calm determination, his intelligence, and his courage impressed her more with each passing day. "You have changed how I see humans," she admitted. "I thought you fragile, ordinary, but you are extraordinary." Ethan shook his head. "I only do what I believe is right. That is all anyone can do." The council meeting that followed was tense. Alien generals and nobles gathered in the Grand Hall, debating how to prepare for the syndicate. Some argued for waiting, for strengthening defenses, while others suggested negotiation or offensive strikes. Ethan listened carefully, noting the strengths and weaknesses of each argument. When it was his turn to speak, he outlined a strategy that combined defense, preparation, and proactive intelligence gathering. He explained how human thinking could complement alien methods. "The syndicate expects us to fight conventionally," he said. "But if we act differently, anticipate their moves, and use the terrain and technology creatively, we can not only defend but control the battlefield." "They will not predict us," some nobles scoffed. "A human dares to advise the Council of Zyphera?" one whispered, trying to mask his envy. Lysera raised an eyebrow. "He is not just any human," she said sharply. "He has proven his worth." "Listen to him." The room fell silent. Slowly, the generals began to nod, realizing that Ethan's ideas had merit. It was rare for humans to gain this level of trust, and rarer still to see their strategies succeed. Over the next few days, Ethan worked tirelessly. He trained soldiers in human tactics, showing them new ways to approach patrols, surveillance, and communication. He studied alien technology and adapted it in ways the aliens had never imagined. He created contingency plans, emergency drills, and coordinated teams that could respond quickly to multiple threats. Lysera observed him constantly, fascinated by his ability to inspire and organize. She realized that the human she had married was not only brave but also brilliant. His quiet strength, his intelligence, and his courage were transforming the colony and influencing even the most skeptical officers. One evening, as the twin moons rose above the horizon, Ethan walked with Lysera along the balcony of the command center. The air was cool, carrying the scent of alien flora from the surrounding forests. "They will strike soon," Ethan said quietly. "The syndicate is patient. They gather strength, plan, and wait for the right moment. But we will be ready." Lysera looked at him, admiration in her eyes. "You are more than I imagined. The rebels were only a test. You have proven yourself already, but I see now that the real challenge is coming." Ethan nodded. "And when it comes, we face it together. Preparation and courage will see us through." The following week, intelligence confirmed Ethan's suspicions. The syndicate had mobilized a fleet and was moving towards Zyphera. Their ships were sleek, fast, and equipped with advanced weapons. It was clear they had studied the planet's defenses and were ready to strike decisively. Ethan called an emergency meeting of the council. He presented a detailed plan, combining human strategy with alien technology. He proposed early detection systems, preemptive strikes on supply lines, and coordinated defense positions around the most vulnerable areas. "Your plan is unusual," said a senior general, his tone cautious. "It relies heavily on unconventional thinking and human methods. It could work, or it could fail catastrophically." Ethan met his gaze steadily. Unconventional does not mean wrong. Sometimes the path less expected is the strongest path. We adapt, we respond, we anticipate. That is how we survive. Lysera spoke then, her voice clear and commanding. He is right. You have seen his leadership. Trust him. Our survival depends on it. The council finally agreed and preparations began immediately. Soldiers trained in new formations. Scouts patrolled with enhanced techniques. And engineers reinforced defenses in ways Ethan suggested. The colony transformed into a well-prepared fortress, combining human logic with alien technology. As preparations continued, Ethan and Lysera spent more time together. They walked through the colony, discussing strategy, sharing observations, and sometimes simply talking. Lysera found herself fascinated not only by his intellect, but also by his perspective on life, courage, and responsibility. He was not only her husband but a partner in every sense, someone whose presence reassured her even in the face of danger. One night, as they walked along a cliff overlooking the forest, Lysera spoke softly. I once thought humans were weak, ordinary, limited. But you have changed my view completely. You are brave, clever, and inspiring. I trust you completely. Ethan looked at her, his expression calm. Trust is earned, Lysera, and I will continue to earn it. I am not here to impress, only to protect and help. She nodded, feeling a deep respect and connection to him. The human she had married was becoming more than she had expected. He was a leader, a hero, and someone who could shape the future of her world. Days passed, and the Syndicate's fleet drew closer. Scouts reported unusual formations and strange signals, indicating that the enemy was more coordinated than any previous threat. Ethan studied the reports carefully, identifying patterns and predicting their next moves. We must act before they strike the capital, he said to Lysera and the council. If we wait, they will choose the battlefield. We choose it first and we control the fight. The council debated, but Lysera supported him fully. We follow his strategy, she said firmly. It has worked before and it will work again. Trust him, Ethan smiled faintly. Thank you. We will need every hand and every mind focused. The coming challenge will test us, but I believe we can overcome it. As night fell, he stood alone on the cliff, looking toward the stars. The Syndicate's fleet was out there, vast and silent, preparing for an attack. But Ethan felt ready. He had studied, prepared, and trained the soldiers. He had earned their respect and he had Lysera's trust. The galaxy was full of uncertainty, but he had one thing that no one could underestimate. The human mind, brave and determined, capable of facing even the greatest threats. Lysera joined him silently. She did not need words to express her admiration. The human she had married was unlike anyone she had ever known. He had revealed his true strength, and she knew that when the Syndicate arrived, he would face them without fear, with courage and brilliance that could change the fate of Zyphora forever. And in the quiet of the night, beneath the twin moons and the stars beyond, the colony held its breath. A human had shown his potential, and now the galaxy would witness what humans were truly capable of. The stars above Zyphora shimmered quietly, but beneath that calm sky the air was tense with anticipation. Scouts had reported the approach of the Syndicate's fleet. Sleek, dark ships moving in formation, armed with weapons far more advanced than anything the colony had faced before. The entire planet seemed to hold its breath. Ethan stood on the command balcony, his eyes scanning the distant horizon. Behind him, Lysera and the Council of Generals waited, their expressions a mixture of hope and anxiety. Soldiers had been trained, defenses reinforced, and every precaution taken. Yet Ethan knew that preparation alone would not ensure victory. He needed strategy, ingenuity, and courage, the very things humans often relied upon to survive against the odds. They are larger than I imagined, said Rykal, his forearms gripping the rail. Their fleet could destroy us in minutes if we make a mistake. Ethan nodded calmly. Size and strength are not everything. They expect a direct defense, a conventional response, but we will be unpredictable. We will use the terrain, the fleet's blind spots, and our own strengths to turn this battle in our favor. Lysera watched him, feeling a mixture of pride and awe. The human she had married, once dismissed as ordinary, now stood as the architect of Zyphora's defense. She had seen his courage, his intelligence, and his ability to inspire. Now she understood that he was capable of far more than she had ever imagined. The fleet reached orbit and alarms rang across the colony. The Syndicate was testing them, probing for weaknesses. Ethan's voice was steady as he directed the defense. Divide the fleet. Smaller units cover the approaches, while our main force remains hidden until the right moment. Focus on mobility and deception. Make them think they control the battlefield, then strike where they least expect it. The soldiers and pilots moved quickly, following his instructions. Alien technology hummed and sparked as ships repositioned, shields activated and energy weapons primed. Ethan coordinated every detail, from the outer satellites to the ground defenses. His calm presence brought order to the chaos. As the first wave of the Syndicate's attack ships approached, Ethan gave the command. Using clever maneuvers, the smaller Sci-Fi vessels feigned weakness, luring the enemy into narrow asteroid fields and orbital passes. Mines and energy traps, placed according to Ethan's design, slowed the attackers and forced them into predictable paths. The aliens had expected a conventional fight, but Ethan had turned it into a puzzle they could not solve. Ships collided with hidden defenses, energy blasts deflected off strategically placed shields, and enemy pilots became trapped in zones carefully prepared by human planning. Lysera watched from the balcony, her heart racing. She saw her husband's influence ripple across the battlefield. His presence inspired confidence even in those who had doubted him. Soldiers and pilots followed his guidance without hesitation, moving with purpose and precision. Then came the moment of direct confrontation. The leader of the Syndicate's fleet, a massive warship bristling with weapons, targeted the capital city. Its energy beams cut through the atmosphere, striking defenses and threatening buildings. Civilians panicked and soldiers scrambled to respond. Ethan acted without hesitation. He directed a small strike team, combining human ingenuity with alien firepower to intercept the warship. Using the shadows of asteroids and calculated maneuvers, they approached the enemy unnoticed. When the moment was right, Ethan gave the command. Coordinated attacks from multiple directions using diversion and precision targeting. The warship shuddered under the unexpected assault. Its weapons misfired, its shields weakened, and chaos spread among the enemy ranks. Ethan moved closer, directing every action with calm clarity. Even as explosions lit the space around him, he remained focused, analyzing the situation and adjusting tactics on the fly. Lysera watched, her breath caught in her throat. The human she had married, whom she had once thought ordinary, was now shaping the outcome of an interstellar battle. His intelligence, courage, and decisiveness had turned the tide. The final phase of the attack approached. Ethan's strike team had disabled the enemy warship's main weapons. Now it was time for a calculated risk. He directed the team to strike the core systems, a move that required precision and courage. One wrong step could destroy them all. But Ethan's calm guidance ensured success. The warship's engines failed, leaving it stranded and vulnerable. The remaining Syndicate ships, seeing their leader defeated, began to retreat. Victory was declared across the colony and fleet. Soldiers cheered, civilians rejoiced, and the alien generals looked on with a mixture of respect and disbelief. The human had not only defended Zephora but had outsmarted a far superior enemy. Lysera approached Ethan as he stood on the command bridge, observing the retreating enemy. She reached out, placing a hand on his shoulder. You have done what I thought impossible. You have saved this planet, your soldiers, and me. I cannot express how proud I am. Ethan looked at her, calm but tired. I only did what was necessary. We all worked together. The strength of many, combined with careful planning, achieved this. She shook her head, smiling. No, your leadership, your courage, and your mind made all the difference. You are remarkable, more than I ever imagined. You have shown me the true strength of a human. He met her gaze, faintly smiling. I only acted as anyone would in the face of danger. But thank you, Lysera. Your trust made this possible. The soldiers gathered around, some bowing in respect, others simply nodding with quiet admiration. They had seen a human stand among them, lead them, and change the course of a battle that seemed hopeless. Whispers spread quickly. The human is not ordinary. The human is extraordinary. In the days that followed, Zephora recovered from the battle. Repairs were made, defenses strengthened, and celebrations marked the courage of the soldiers. Ethan continued to guide the rebuilding, offering ideas and strategies to ensure the planet would remain safe from future threats. Lysera watched him, her admiration deepening with each passing day. She had married him for political reasons, expecting a human of limited capability. But she had discovered someone far greater than she could have imagined. Ethan's courage, intelligence, and ingenuity had reshaped her world. One evening, as the twin moons rose above the horizon, Ethan and Lysera walked together through the palace gardens. The air was cool, carrying the fragrance of alien flowers. The city below glimmered with lights, the people moving with purpose and hope. "You have changed everything," Lysera said softly. "Not just the colony, not just the city, but how I see humans, how I see strength, and how I see you. You are beyond what I ever imagined." Ethan looked at her, his expression calm. "I only did what was necessary. I acted to protect and help. That is all anyone can do." Lysera smiled, feeling a deep respect and connection. "No, you acted with courage, wisdom, and heart. You have inspired soldiers, citizens, and even me. You have revealed the true strength of your kind. And now, I know that together we can face any challenge." He nodded, a quiet determination in his eyes. "Then we prepare for the future, together." As they walked, the stars above Zephora shone brightly. The galaxy had witnessed the courage and ingenuity of a human. Ethan had proven that humans were more than their appearance, that strength came in many forms, and that bravery combined with intelligence could overcome even the greatest odds. Lysera, the queen, had learned a lesson she would never forget. The human she had married had unveiled his true strength, and in doing so, had not only saved her planet but had also earned her deepest respect, trust, and admiration. The story of the human and the queen spread quickly, inspiring others across the galaxy. Humans, once underestimated, were now seen in a new light, and Ethan, the quiet, clever, and brave man from Earth, had shown that when given a chance, humans could stand among the greatest, change the course of battles, and leave a mark on worlds far beyond their own. And so, as the suns rose again over Zephora, the planet was safe, the people hopeful, and a queen had discovered the extraordinary truth. The human she had married was more than she had ever imagined. He was a hero, a strategist, and a partner whose true strength would continue to shape the galaxy.